This is Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details. Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant should be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And Chris, I am going to tell you why. First of all, we're continuing our position by position breakdown series here at Between the Uprights of the 2025 NFL draft. And now we are moving to defensive tackles. And one of the best in the draft, in my opinion, is the nose tackle and defensive tackle out of Michigan, Kenneth Grant. This man is 6'4", 330 pounds. He came to Michigan 360 pounds and a three-star recruit, but with freakish athleticism. Former head coach at Michigan, John Harbaugh, said he ran a sub-5, so under 5, 40-yard dash at 360 pounds in high school. This guy is a freak athlete, and he made Bruce Feldman's freaks list of the best athletes in the NFL draft as an obvious freak of nature, running sub-5 at 360 pounds in Kenneth Grant. And again, the positives in his tape, in his game, on tape, he does literally everything well. He stuffed the run. He's got explosive hands. He's super quick with his first step, especially getting after the passer with it. He's got a great swim move as well. You see it in the run game and the pass game where he swims defenders. He makes plays against running backs and sacks the quarterback as well. He made plays on wide receiver screens. I saw this dude. There was a wide receiver screen. He ran up to the side at 350 pounds and smoked the wide receiver. I don't know about you. If you're a wide receiver catching a screen pass, I don't want to see a 350-pound man running a 5-flat 40 coming and smoking me on a wide receiver screen. That's what Kenneth Grant does. And as well, tons of extra effort plays. He chased down Will Howard on a big third down in their W against Ohio State last year. He also, and again, this clip he kind of went viral for, hawking down Penn State's running back, Katron Allen, in open space. Like he DK Metcalf, a running back in space. It's absolutely ridiculous with the kind of athlete that Kenneth Grant is. Not only amazing effort, but amazing athleticism coming from Kenneth Grant as well. To me, he can either be a nose tackle in a 3-4 scheme, or he can play various 4-3 schemes as well as more of a traditional D tackle. And two, again, it's not just the tangibles with him as far as his athleticism. It's the intangibles as well. And it's the production as well. He is constantly just disruptive for the other team's offense. 9th most defensive stops and 8th most pressures among defensive tackles in the Big Ten last year. And again, we're talking about strictly production, right? Production and numbers. Obviously, the national championship in 2023. And then last year, he had 32 tackles, 6.5 TFLs, and 3 sacks, and was second team all Big Ten last year. For someone who's as raw and as freakishly talented as Kenneth Grant is. And again, he also set a Michigan all-time record for pass breakups last year. So he's really good at getting his hands in to passing lanes and batting down balls as well, which is super, super frustrating for an offense and super, super frustrating for an opposing team's quarterback as well. So again, does a great job of batting down those passes, and he does a great job of, like I said, just being disruptive, just being an irritant on defense that you have to pay attention to every single snap of the game. His negatives, again, did he benefit from his teammate Mason Grant hogging all those double teams? You know, Mason Graham is going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft more than likely this year. A lot of people have him mocked to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 5th overall. So Graham's commanding double teams. Is that helping Grant because he's getting more single coverage? Maybe. Again, sometimes his pad level as well can get a little bit too high. He loses leverage and can get blocked off the spot because, you know, blockers can get underneath his pads and kind of move him off of his spot. As well, he's just kind of inconsistent. He shows he can be dominant, but it's not as routinely as you'd like, especially with someone who's as freakishly athletic as he is. And it's partly because when his initial pass rush gets stopped, sometimes he won't go into a secondary move or keep fighting. Sometimes he'll just kind of accept his fate, which is also the reason why he'll bat down a lot of passes, because he doesn't really go to his secondary or his third pass rush moves as well. And then his weight as well. Like I mentioned at the beginning, he was 360 in high school. He kind of fluctuated between 330 and 360 at Michigan. I think 350, 360 is a little too much. He stays in that 330, 340 range for Kenneth Grant. I think that's going to be a sweet spot for him where he can be a really, really good NFL player. But my overall takeaway for Kenneth Grant, Michigan themselves had the 2 best interior defensive linemen in this draft. The first one I mentioned is Mason Graham. He might be one of the 3 best players in this draft. And then the second is Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant is the 2nd best defensive tackle in this draft, people. He could easily be selected top 10, definitely in the top 10 to 15 range. And again, some people think of defensive tackles and nose tackles as like they're just an occupier of space. You know, they can command a double team, but they're just, you know, there to eat up space. He's not that. He's a legit 3-down defensive tackle who can stuff the run on early downs and get after your quarterback with pass rush moves on third downs as well. He's going to need some work on his technique, but if he gets it, Chris, I am telling you, he has the highest upside of any defensive tackle in this draft. Kenneth Grant does. He can be an absolute monster at the NFL level. His best fits to me, I think, his earliest is Saints at 9. The Saints need a lot of help defensively, especially with a big-time talented defensive tackle like Kenneth Grant. That'd be a good shot for them to take. I think the latest he goes is the Chargers at 22. Obviously, his former head coach, Jim Harbaugh, has really good ties with him there. And then, we saw what Harbaugh said, or I told you what Harbaugh said about him as far as just being a freak athlete, running sub-5 at 360 pounds. I guarantee you he would love for someone like that to be back on his defensive line. But the best fit, I'm telling you right now, if Kenneth Grant goes to the Chicago Bears at 10th overall, they end up getting a running back in the second round, maybe a Travion Henderson, maybe a Cam Scadavoo. The Bears are going to be dangerous with something like that. So, again, Kenneth Grant, to me, is the second best defensive tackle in this draft, and he is going to be a stud at the next level. Whoever drafts him is going to be very, very excited. But, Chris, I have been rambling on too long about Kenneth Grant so far, and I got to kick it to you. First of all, if you have any thoughts on Kenneth Grant, give them to me. And second of all, which defensive tackle are you looking for in this 2025 NFL draft?
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't think there's really much left to say, man. To see him go to the Chicago Bears would be stupidly scary. Like, stupidly scary. Like, if there was one way that Ben Johnson was really going to cement that, like, I'm the dude, that's it. Because you've already done it offensive line-wise. So if you're going into the draft, like, now we're about to beef up our defense as well, which was already fairly good last season, and we're about to add another playmaker for the offense, man, I don't know. I might have to fled back to maybe Ben Johnson should have been the pick for the Patriots. I don't know, man. I don't know. You're always worried about, like, first time head coaches, but every head coach has been a head coach the first time at some point, right? So everybody had to start somewhere. So that to me, out of all the teams that you listed, that would be the scariest for me, for sure, and it definitely needed. Absolutely. Man, I don't even know how to follow that one up. So the guy that I look at, to be honest, I don't think he gets a lot of, I'd say not necessarily leverage, but I really haven't seen his name mentioned much, right? I do expect him to go probably within the first round, probably late first, potentially into the second. We know how deep this class is already. We've already talked about it. But somebody I don't think is getting a lot of love is Derrick Harmon. He's a defensive tackle out of Oregon. Very, very good tackle, by the way. And you don't see a lot about him. Like, he's 6'4", he's 313 pounds. He was a second-team associate press All-American in 2024. Third team All Big Team conference. And then he had 13 starts, 45 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss with 5 sacks. He had 4 pass breakups and 2 forced fumbles. They literally had, if people go back and actually look at stuff that came back from the combine, which I'm going to get to in a minute, which was ridiculous. They had an NFC executive actually say that off his tape, not even saying from the combine, off of his tape, that he reminds him of a young Cam Hayward, but bigger. So can you imagine a Cam Hayward basically coming out fresh and bigger than how he started? Like, that to me is super scary. There was also some combination, like during the combine when he ran his 40. I think they kind of compared him to Christian Jones out of the Chiefs, which I thought was a huge comparison. So to be in the same realm as both of those big time players, I think is insane. So for his combine, believe it or not, he was the sixth highest. He had the sixth highest 40 of the defensive tackles at a 4.95. His production score was the 4th best out of all defensive tackles. He also had a total score from the combine as being basically 4. So he was top 5 out of all the defensive tackles. He had a 1.74 as a 10-yard split, which to me is insane for a big dude. Like, that's super quick in my opinion. Like, he's getting 10-yard split in basically less than 2 seconds. I can't really get out of my chair and get up and go to the kitchen in less than 2 seconds. So that to me is quite impressive. So I saw a lot of analysts that were really impressed with him. So then you go back and you kind of look at their tape, And it's hard to bypass the type of guy that he is. For a big guy, he has his underrated twitch in his upper body. Like I'll get into he does have some cons when it comes to his lower body, but his upper body, he has some legit twitch that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to, right? So this makes him, to me, like a low-key deadly player to a offensive lineman that thinks he's going to go block one way and change the movement of his upper body in a hurry to change direction, and allows him to basically plug whatever direction that running back was expecting for him to not be taking. It's not going to happen. If they're coming down the right side, he's gonna fake to the left, and as soon as he sees that the guy's faking is going to the right, he's immediately his entire upper body changes and he stuffs it. You ain't getting nowhere out of that guy. That, to me, is the type of defensive inner circle that you want on your defensive side of the ball, especially if you're trying to rush, you're trying to block the rushing attack, which by also, he was at the 86.3, so 85% percentile in the pass rushing grade in along with PFF. So, and it was based on with every, this is towards every defensive tackle in college that had at least 300 snaps. So to me, like, this is the run stopper that you want, to be quite honest. He was close to being in the 90 percentile of the run stop rate, which was 7.1%, which was basically damn near the highest, which is insane. He's a 3-year player. He's shown improvement year after year from, if you look up his stats, you look how he's doing. Every year there's been some increase in his improvement. And he's not even anywhere near his ceiling. So I'm telling you, like, whoever gets this guy is going to get a stud on the interior defense, and he is going to give offensive linemen a fit on Sundays. I damn near guarantee it. But does he have cons? Absolutely. I mean, I feel like every player coming into the NFL draft is going to have cons. It's just natural. It comes with territory. So one of his cons is, and I mentioned a little bit earlier that I was going to bring up, was his lower body. So while he is very twisty and very perceptive with his upper body, his lower body kind of lacks what his upper body has. So with such lower base, you saw it on the combine footage that he has a trend of not being able to get the bend and quick change of direction. When he pops up, you can basically see that he can lose his leverage pretty quickly because of the lack of assistance that he gets from his body, from his lower body. So he's definitely going to need some improvement in that area, especially when it comes to techniques going into the NFL. That's going to be extremely needed when it comes to his the way he moves and how he runs his lower half is going to mean a lot. So I think that he's definitely going to need some help with that. But for me also, so per PFF, he is ranked as the 30th overall prospect. He also is the 4th best interior defensive player. So maybe only 2 under the one that you mentioned. And while this is a heavy defensive class overall, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go in like I said, like the mid first round. I think he's definitely a good. I think he's a good player. I think that teams are going to get a lot out of him. He's definitely he's a nasty dude. Like, he is a nasty dude on the inside. If you're looking to build the trenches, which we've seen so many teams being so kind of focused on going into this draft, we saw it during free agency, that there has been a huge increase in the want to build through the trenches. And I think this is definitely a guy that you want to take to help you do that. You can see him with teams like the Cardinals, right, or the Falcons. But there's one team in particular that I do think, if he gets down this low, they could very well take a shot at him. And to me, that is the Detroit Lions. And it's because it's actually where his hometown is. So he's actually a hometown boy from Detroit. So I could definitely see, being with a head coach in Dan Campbell, I can definitely see Dan Campbell on draft day saying, hey, we're going to bring hometown guy back home and put him where he wants to be. And that he's going to get the best out of him. But no matter what, like, whoever picks him up is, to me, in my opinion, is going to get a hell of a player, quite honestly, out of Derrick Harmon. And I can't wait to really see where he ends up, especially with like the low amount of attention I feel like he's been getting going through the draft process. You don't really see you hear a lot about like the top 5, top 6 picks, but you don't see a lot about him. So I'm definitely interested to see where he goes, and I can 100% see him going in the first round.
Yeah, Chris, I agree. Harmon's a really, really good player. Some team is going to get a really nice fit with him. He only had that 1 year of like really, really nice production. But again, you're going to get a player who's got a high IQ player. He's really competitive. And again, he's going to fit somebody's defensive line really, really well. And again, Chris, this defensive draft, we talked about it a little bit in our edge rush video. This is a historic defensive line draft. Like there's 30, 40, maybe 50 defensive linemen and edge players that could potentially get drafted in this year's NFL draft. That's like 20% of the draft just on the defensive line alone. So if you're in need of a defensive lineman, this is the draft to get it. And again, there's only 2 of us here today, so I wanted to mention a few other names that we would potentially be hearing in the NFL draft coming up. Mason Graham out of Michigan, I already talked about him. He's potentially going to go top 5. Some people have him as one of the 2 or 3 best players in the NFL draft this year. He's an absolute monster from Michigan. He commanded double teams all year. He's a beast. Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, he's another one that you could potentially see go into the top 15 of this year's draft. Teams really, really like him at the defensive tackle spot. Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State was a big key to Ohio State's really, really nice defense last year, national championship winning defense last year. He's someone who could end up playing nose. He's a really, really good defensive tackle as well. And someone who I guarantee you will play nose, and you might not see him get picked to the 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th round. Super young player out of Maryland, Jordan Phillips. He's also a really, really nice looking young player. He's got a lot of talent. He's a freak of nature as well, who could potentially get picked in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of the NFL draft this year that I really like as far as defensive tackles go. But again, there's a ton of defensive linemen in this upcoming NFL draft that if your team needs a D lineman, and pretty much every single team in the NFL could use a defensive lineman, you are going to get one in this year's NFL draft.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.